You wanna get married? Hurry up and come. On Christmas Day, Diego sent me a photo of a wedding scene. There were only these few words and an address. When I hurried to the scene wearing a wedding dress, he and his friends were laughing hysterically, holding their stomachs. I told you. Just a word from me and she'll come running in a wedding dress. Do you believe it? If I told her to die, she'd probably do it willingly. Diego ignored my humiliation and, in front of everyone, proposed to Ruby. He even accused me of extortion and threatened to have me arrested. Until my new husband suddenly appeared and held me in his arms. Diego's eyes turned red instantly. Chapter 1. I felt like a clown, surrounded by Diego and his friends. Sophia, don't you have any shame? Diego already has a girlfriend, and you're still trying to be the third wheel. I've seen shameless people, but you take it to another level. You've been chasing after Diego for so many years, and now you even think you can marry him. I could watch her groveling at Diego's feet for the rest of my life and never get tired of it. Haha. The air was filled with these unbearable remarks, but I just looked at Diego, hoping to find some sign of guilt or regret in his eyes. But I was disappointed. Diego, hands in his pockets, smiled with a shameless grin. Sophia, it's just a joke. You don't mind, do you? To be honest, I never expected you to show up in a wedding dress. What's the deal? You really want to marry me that badly? I used to find his cocky attitude charming, thinking it was so cool, but now, it just felt repulsive. I took a deep breath. What if I do mind? Before I could even finish speaking, someone pushed me from behind. What right do you have to mind? You've been chasing Diego for years. Getting played by us is what you deserve. If you're really so tough, don't go crawling back to Diego later. Diego also looked at me, his eyes full of contempt. You're still acting innocent after everything. Huh? Sophia, am I giving you too much face? A sharp pain hit my chest. The Diego who once promised to protect me, to shield me from any harm, was the one who had hurt me the most in the end. I've known Diego since we were children. Back in kindergarten, I was bullied by other kids. He rode on top of one of them, smashing the kid's head open while he got a few bruises. I cried hysterically, but he just laughed and held me. Sophia, don't be afraid. Big brother will protect you. He'd been protecting me like that for over a decade, though we never admitted it. We both knew we shared something special. Our classmates even assumed we were a couple. For the past 20 years, there's only been him in my life. Yet, in his heart, another woman had taken my place. And now, I didn't want him anymore. Don't worry, I'm getting married. From now on, I won't be bothering you anymore. Diego, you're free now. She's what? Getting married? Who's she trying to fool? She used to say she'd never marry anyone but Diego. Does she think her life is so long? Sophia, even if you want to get Diego's attention, you don't have to use such a pathetic trick. Diego just looked at me with disdain. You say you're getting married? Where's the guy? Bring him out. Let us see. If it's true, I'll give you a big red envelope, just to thank you for not being such a simp. Yeah, and we'll set off a bunch of firecrackers to celebrate the big event. They all looked so sure of themselves. I sneered and was about to take out my phone. Enough. Stop messing with her. Ruby, who hadn't said a word until now, finally spoke up. She pointed at the hotel across the street. Sophia, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I just thought the bride at the wedding had the same name as you and thought it would be funny to have them joke with you. If I've offended you, I sincerely apologize. Before I, the victim, could say anything, Diego's friends started defending her. Ruby, she's trying to steal your boyfriend, and you're apologizing to her? Exactly. We all know you're kind-hearted, but some people don't deserve it. Don't let her take your man. Ruby, Diego's friends had always looked down on me. In their eyes, Ruby was a goddess, and she and Diego were the golden couple. I was just the toad trying to eat the swan's meat. I ignored their taunts. I motioned for them to look at the hotel across the street. Have you considered that I'm the bride getting married? For a moment, the scene fell silent. Then, in the next second, there was a burst of thunderous laughter. Haha, Sophia, I really didn't expect you to be so desperate to get married. You're just fantasizing that the bride is you because you have the same name. The name Sophia is everywhere. If the real bride knew someone was using her name like this, she'd be so unlucky. As he spoke, Diego grabbed a guy and shoved him towards me. If things really don't work out, maybe you should just get together with David. Back in high school, he was into you, and I think he'd be happy to pick up where I left off. David didn't seem offended by being pushed and teased. He grinned, showing his crooked teeth. Sophia, why don't you consider me instead? I won't mind. If we're together, I'll treat you well. I didn't even give him a glance. I had no desire to engage with them. I'm not lying. The bride getting married over there is me. If you don't believe me, you can come with me and see for yourselves. Chapter 2. Diego's expression suddenly turned cold. Sophia, have you had enough of this? If you want to embarrass yourself, don't drag us into it. This is supposed to be a joyous occasion, but you're ruining it for others. What's your game here? Ruby also looked at me disapprovingly. Yeah, Sophia, there's no need to ruin someone's once-in-a-lifetime wedding just to save face. This kind of behavior will come back to you. For a moment, I really regretted it. I should have just taken out the invitation and thrown it in their faces, showing them clearly what was really going on. But they seemed to think my silence meant agreement. Diego's friends looked at me like I was a criminal. It's not like this is the first time she's done something like this. She knew Diego was with Ruby, yet she still wanted to marry him. It's just a matter of time before she gets what's coming to her. Before, I just thought she was stupid, but now I see she's also evil. She doesn't deserve Diego's heart. Women like her deserve to be scorned by everyone and never be able to hold their heads up high. I had become numb to these kinds of insults over the years. One of Diego's friends suddenly had an idea. Diego, instead of letting her keep bothering you, why don't you just settle down with Ruby, so she can finally get the hint? Yeah, we're all behind you, Diego. Propose, propose, propose. The cheering grew louder and louder. Ruby blushed like an apple. Stop it. We've only been together for a short time. This is too fast. Although she said it was too fast, her eyes kept darting toward my wedding dress, with a hint of longing in them. Diego didn't disappoint them. He grinned and said, I was planning to find the right moment to propose to her, but since she's destined to be my wife, why not exercise my right to do so a little earlier? After delivering this cliché line, he magically pulled out a ring from his pocket. Though I was surprised, it wasn't that unexpected. Diego had been chasing Ruby for years, so I'm sure the ring had been prepared long ago. In an instant, his friends were whistling, shouting, and making noise, so loud it made my ears hurt. One of them even jumped up and grabbed my veil, roughly pulling a lock of my hair out. I winced in pain. The guy handed the veil to Diego, who smiled and placed it on Ruby's head. Kneeling in front of her, Ruby, the moment I met you, I knew I liked you. Every day with you makes me feel like the happiest man in the world. I want to be with you forever. Ruby, will you marry me? Ruby's eyes filled with tears. Without even letting him finish, she threw herself into his arms. Yes, I will. Diego's friends went wild. They surrounded the two of them, singing and dancing, more excited than they would have been if they'd been the ones proposed to. Compared to the heartbreak I felt when I first found out they were together, my heart now felt completely calm. Diego and Ruby held each other, their lips locked in a kiss, as snowflakes perfectly drifted down from the sky. They were romantic, but I was freezing. Congratulations. Now that the proposal is over, can I have my veil back? I'm still waiting to get married. Chapter 3. The atmosphere was instantly ruined. One of Diego's friends shoved me in frustration. Sophia, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Diego's proposing, and you're saying all these things to ruin the mood? Yeah, if you want to cry, just cry. Diego's only ever going to love Ruby, so go back to wherever you came from and stop interfering. I didn't understand. I just wanted to get back what was mine. What did I do wrong? Their good time had been interrupted, and Diego looked displeased. Glaring at me, Ruby awkwardly tried to take off the veil. I couldn't tell if she was flustered or doing it on purpose. There was a loud rip. and the veil was torn by one of the rhinestones on her nails, leaving a huge hole. Ruby gasped. Sophia, I'm sorry. I'll pay you for the veil. How much was it? Pay me? This veil looks like one of those cheap $9.99 ones from the internet. No wonder it tore so easily. It's just a veil. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Just treat it as a gift for Ruby's proposal. Heh, they sure knew how to be generous with other people's stuff. I didn't waste time arguing. I took out my phone and opened the payment code. This veil was custom made by my husband in Italy. The total cost was $100,500. As a friend, I'll give you a discount. Just pay $100,000 and scan the code. Ruby's face stiffened, and she looked toward Diego with pleading eyes. His friends went off. Spit was practically flying at my face. Sophia, are you trying to scam us? A lousy veil. And you're asking for $100,000? Could it be that you're upset because Diego proposed to Ruby and you're trying to extort us? I think this is all part of her plan. She intentionally brought a damaged veil and is trying to trick us into paying for it. I almost laughed. It was clear they were the ones who had taken my veil. And now they were accusing me of setting up a trap. Moreover, it was only fair to ask for compensation when someone damaged your belongings. If you don't believe me, I can call my husband to bring the receipt. Enough. Diego's face darkened. Sophia, how long do you plan to keep this up? Let me tell you, no matter how much you try, I will never like you. Apologize to Ruby, and this will be over. I stared at him, dumbfounded. They ruined my property and didn't want to compensate. And now they wanted me to apologize? What kind of logic was this? Ruby's eyes turned red. Sophia, I know you don't like me, but I love Ian with all my heart. Why do you have to make things difficult for us? Make things difficult for her? What a joke. Diego, looking all concerned, pulled Ruby into his arms, shooting daggers at me with his eyes. Sophia, are you going to apologize or not? I sneered. She ruined my things. Why should I apologize? Diego smiled grimly. Do you know that your actions are considered blackmail? $100,000 is a huge amount. Do you want to go to jail for this? Don't waste time talking to her. Call the police. I'm sure she won't get away with this. I didn't care, but the wedding was about to begin. I didn't want to be in a situation where there was no bride at the wedding. When I received the message from Diego, I was with my husband, going over the event schedule with the staff. I thought it would be good to clear things up with him and properly say goodbye to the past. So I ran out of the hotel. Now I realized I was wrong. I should have just kept my distance and not wasted time talking to him. They thought I was scared, and looked at me with smug grins. Now you're scared. Huh, too bad. It's too late. An Italian handmade veil? Hilarious. Why don't you have your made-up husband come out? Or just go to jail like we said? Sophia, are they talking about me? A deep voice suddenly came from behind me. Chapter 4. Joaquin walked over confidently, his hand naturally resting on my waist. My posture straightened instantly. Diego and his friends paused for a moment, all staring at the man who had suddenly appeared. I smirked. Let me introduce you. This is my husband, Joaquin. How is that possible? Someone gasped in disbelief. Joaquin smiled and nodded toward them. Hello, I'm Sophia's husband. One of Diego's friends scoffed. Sophia, weren't you in love with Diego? How did you find someone else so quickly? The truth was, I had to thank Diego for my meeting with Joaquin. After Diego confessed his love to Ruby, I was heartbroken and went to a bar to drown my sorrows. Somehow, I ended up in bed with Joaquin. The next morning, he was still there. I was so embarrassed I wished I could just disappear. But he was calm, sitting on the bed, and the first thing he said to me was, "Would you marry me?" At the time, I hadn't fully gotten over my heartbreak, and in a moment of impulse, I said yes. Later, I would often be thankful that the person I met that night was him. Unlike the arrogant Diego, Joaquin was considerate and a gentleman. After we got engaged, he took me to Italy and arranged for a master craftsman to design this wedding dress and veil for me. He even planned the entire wedding, leaving me to relax and enjoy the process. Diego studied Joaquin for a moment before suddenly scoffing. Sophia, are you still pretending? Where did you find this actor? His acting is terrible. Besides me, how could you possibly marry someone else? Perhaps in the past. I had loved him so much that I gave him the illusion that I was his and his alone. Joaquin raised an eyebrow. Would you like me to show this gentleman our marriage certificate? I don't have it on me, but I took a photo. I can show it to you. He pulled out his phone, and before he could show it, one of Diego's friends grabbed it from his hand. No way! Sophia really got a marriage certificate with this guy? She's really not after Diego anymore? The certificate was issued a month ago. That's the day after Diego and Ruby got together. I knew it! It must have been because of Diego. Could it be that she purposely got a fake marriage certificate to provoke us? At those words, Diego suddenly laughed. He crossed his arms, wearing an expression that said, I knew it. Chapter 5. Joaquin couldn't help but chuckle. You all have quite the imagination. Since you're friends of Sophia, why don't you come inside and have a drink to celebrate? Diego snorted. Sophia, stop this nonsense. I don't care where you found this man, but come back with me. Don't let him deceive you. I couldn't help but laugh and pointed to the hotel's welcome sign. I already told you. I'm getting married today. Why don't you take a good look and see who the groom is? Everyone turned in the direction I pointed. When they saw the sign that said groom, Joaquin, bride, Sophia, Diego's pupils contracted in shock. He looked at me in disbelief. You went this far to get back at me, even planning your whole wedding? I was at a loss for words. At that moment, Joaquin's phone rang. The wedding coordinator reminded us to get ready. As the ceremony was about to begin, Joaquin noticed and asked, Where's your veil? I instinctively glanced at Ruby. Joaquin followed my gaze, and when he saw the large hole in the veil, his brow furrowed deeply. Diego's friends didn't seem to care. We were just about to mention it. Sophia says this ruined veil is worth 100,000, and she's demanding Ruby pay for it. Her behavior's clearly extortion, and we were about to call the cops. Joaquin sneered. Then call the cops. What? They looked at him, stunned. Joaquin pulled out the receipt. This veil was custom-made by one of Italy's most famous artisans. If you don't believe me, feel free to check the receipt. Also, you ruined my wife's veil and falsely accused her of extortion. I reserve the right to pursue legal action. They were all stunned. Diego grabbed the receipt and looked down at it. Then he shot me a furious look, his face turning pale. Ruby tugged at his sleeve, clearly flustered. Ah, Yen. I really didn't mean it. I didn't know the veil was so expensive. Yeah, Sophia. This is all a misunderstanding. We're all friends. How about we just let it go? Let it go? I snorted. I don't have friends who try to send me to jail. They were speechless. After getting my frustration out, Joaquin pulled me away to leave, but a large hand grabbed my wrist. Sophia, are you really going to marry him? I looked at Diego, confused. What's wrong? Do you still think this is an act? Diego's lips moved, but he couldn't say anything for a long time. I didn't have the time or patience to engage with him. I shook his hand off and walked into the hotel with Joaquin. Sorry you had to witness this, I said, feeling a little embarrassed. Joaquin rubbed my head gently. Silly. This isn't your fault. Life is long. Who hasn't fallen for a few jerks? You're so wonderful. Sooner or later, he'll regret it. I was touched and kissed him on the cheek. But before I knew it, Joaquin pressed me against him and kissed me deeply. With the veil now gone, I was trying to figure out what to do when Joaquin, out of nowhere, produced a new veil and placed it on my head. I looked at him in surprise. How did you have a spare? Joaquin smiled. Not just the veil. I have several wedding dresses ready. If you like, you can change into any of them anytime. Though we hadn't known each other long, his every gesture showed how much he cared about this wedding and me. My heart warmed with gratitude. I thought, perhaps this was the universe's way of making up for all the years I spent chasing Diego, giving me someone as wonderful as Joaquin. Before stepping onto the stage, I felt nervous. Joaquin rubbed my cold hands. Don't be scared. I'm here. His words calmed my restless heart. As the doors slowly opened, I instantly saw Diego, Ruby, and their group standing in the audience. What were they doing here? As I wondered, My eyes met Diego's in the crowd. His face was as white as a sheet, and his gaze was locked on me in disbelief. It seemed he couldn't believe I was really going through with this marriage. The ceremony proceeded to the part where we were to exchange rings. Suddenly, Diego broke free from his friends and rushed forward. Sophia, you can't marry him. Chapter 6. The entire room fell silent. My parents were so furious that they stood up, pointing at Diego and yelling at him. He didn't seem to care. His eyes red as he rushed forward. Sophia, come with me. I looked at him in confusion. Diego, what are you doing? He gave a bitter smile. Sophia, I admit you've won. I can't just watch you marry someone else. Come with me. I'll give you anything you want. Not even an hour ago, he had proposed to Ruby, promising he would always be with her. And now, so quickly, he was changing his mind? I stared at him coldly. Diego, I'm not doing this to get back at you, nor am I playing games. Today is my wedding day. If you still have any decency left, please leave. No. Diego's voice trembled with emotion, and he unconsciously took a step closer. You used to love me so much. How could you change your mind so easily? In the past, I really did love him, loved him to the point of losing my dignity, my sense of self, even enduring repeated humiliation and mockery from him and his friends. But the truth is, no one really loves someone forever. Once you've accumulated enough disappointment and heartbreak, leaving becomes inevitable. I looked at him, my eyes firm. Diego, I don't love you anymore. His eyes reddened immediately. No, Sophia, didn't you just want to get married? I can marry you too. If you divorce him, I'll marry you right away. I almost burst out laughing in frustration. Joaquin, on the other hand, coldly curled his lips. Mr. Liu, encouraging my wife to divorce me in public. Isn't that a bit much? Shut up. Diego's eyes were bloodshot, glaring at Joaquin. If it weren't for you, Sophia would never leave me. You're the third wheel. Give her back to me. Diego never took responsibility for his actions. He always avoided facing the truth. Even without Joaquin, I could never have stayed with him. And besides, there was still Ruby between us. At that moment, Ruby, who had been watching from the sidelines, suddenly rushed up to Diego and slapped him across the face a few times. Diego, how could you do this to me? If you're marrying her, what am I to you? What do you think of me? Diego shoved her violently. Get lost. I never loved you. If it weren't for Sophia, I would never have been with you. Before I could process what he meant by that, Diego suddenly went mad. He grabbed Ruby's hand and forcibly ripped the ring off her finger. The rough movement scraped her skin, and she screamed in pain, but he didn't seem to care. He held the ring up in front of me, excited. Sophia, I've had this ring for 10 years. I've always wanted to propose to you. I didn't even look at him. Instead, I absent-mindedly traced the diamond ring that Joaquin had just placed on my finger. No need. I already have a ring. The light in Diego's eyes immediately dimmed. At that moment, the security finally arrived, about to drag him away. But he broke free, dropped to his knees, and began slapping himself across the face. Sophia, I was wrong. I apologize. I just loved you too much. But after college, you became so distant. Everyone says that people who get things too easily never cherish them. I was afraid you'd fall in love with someone else. So I came up with this idea to make you jealous using Ruby. I never loved her. Sophia, I know I was wrong. Please don't leave me. I really can't live without you. My mind went blank. I couldn't believe that all the humiliation and pain I had suffered over the past few years was caused by such a ridiculous reason. After we went to college, I had worked hard to study, trying to be worthy of Diego. For a while, I truly neglected him, and because of that, he came up with this terrible idea, using love as an excuse to hurt me and satisfy his twisted view of love. His actions hurt me, but they also hurt Ruby. Ruby, furious, rushed at him. Bastard! How could you do this to me? What do you think I am? Diego let her slap him. His eyes filled with pain as he stared at me. I clenched my fists, looking at him with disgust. Diego, you make me sick. He lowered his head in pain. Joaquin pulled me closer and looked down at Diego from above. Mr. Liu, I should actually thank you. If it weren't for you being so foolish, so self-righteous, how could a great girl like Sophia have been pushed toward me? Diego gritted his teeth in frustration. Sophia, I used the wrong method, but it was all because I loved you so much. I swear, no one in this world loves you more than I do. If he really loved me, how could he watch me suffer in silence, even propose to another woman in front of me? He wasn't acting out of love. He was using it as a guise to bully me. Diego, this kind of love is disgusting. I, Sophia, would rather not have it. With that, I ignored him completely and signaled for security to drag him out. Before he was dragged away, he kept shouting, Sophia, I won't give up. I'll wait until you forgive me. Chapter 7. After the wedding, I looked at Joaquin. I'm sorry. I didn't know things would turn out like this. If you want a divorce. Before I could finish, Joaquin covered my mouth with his hand. Sophia, don't say that. You don't know how happy I am to have married you. I blinked in confusion. Joaquin, why are you so good to me? It had only been a little over a month since we met, yet his indulgence and care often made me feel undeserving. I had wondered if perhaps he was just that kind of person, exceptionally good. But it seemed almost too much. Joaquin sighed as he looked at me. Sophia, let me take you somewhere. I confusedly changed out of my wedding dress and got into the car with him. An hour later, we arrived at a cemetery. I looked at him, puzzled. What are we doing here? He held my hand and stopped in front of a gravestone. The elderly woman in the photograph looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. Who is she? She's my grandmother. I stared at him, surprised, not understanding why he had brought me here. I don't know if you remember, but 3 years ago, you saved an old woman. The long-forgotten memory suddenly resurfaced. I remembered that evening after my evening class when I found an elderly woman lying on the ground, unconscious. Although I was scared, my conscience wouldn't allow me to leave her there. I stayed with her until the ambulance arrived. Later, I went with the ambulance to the hospital and even helped cover her medical expenses. A few days later, her grandson called me to thank me and invited me to dinner. I felt a little embarrassed and turned down the invitation. The next day, he returned the money I had spent on medical fees, and we never contacted each other again. I never imagined that the grandson of that woman was Joaquin. Joaquin smiled and pulled me into his arms. Back then, I thought that girl was very kind. If I had the chance to meet her, I wanted to be friends. I never imagined that I'd run into you at school, but you seemed upset at the time, so I didn't bother you. At that time, I had been completely focused on Diego because of the painful things happening between him and Ruby. Suddenly, Joaquin looked at me seriously. Sophia, there's something Diego said earlier that I want to correct. I looked at him in confusion. He said, I love you. I will love you more than anyone else in this world. My heart skipped a beat. Looking at his deep, steady eyes, I realized that this time, I had truly fallen. Joaquin told me that his grandmother had passed away 6 months ago. She had left peacefully but hadn't seen her granddaughter-in-law. So, today, he brought me here to visit her and to talk things through with me. Before we left, we bowed a few times in front of the grave. Joaquin's parents were understanding and didn't blame me for what happened that day. I'm sure Joaquin had spoken well of me to them. After that day, Diego couldn't let go and kept calling me every day. I blocked him, and then he added me again, claiming he wanted to return the money for the veil. Though Joaquin wasn't lacking in money, I didn't want to let them take advantage of me. After collecting the money, I blocked him again. After that day, when Joaquin had scared Diego's friends with threats of lawsuits, they all came to apologize to me. Ruby, who had her pride, got back at Diego by starting a relationship with one of his close friends. But eventually, she grew bored of it and broke up with him, then left for abroad. One day, I received a package in the mail. Inside was a ring. It looked familiar. It was the same ring Diego had shown me at the wedding, along with a letter. I didn't even bother reading it. I returned the ring without a second glance. Some things are just meant to be missed. Now, I have my own happiness, and the best ending for me and him is for us to each live our lives well, separately.